Reverend please come up front so he can lead us in prayer?
Okay, we have our sound guy that's going to help us with the sound. Well, let me first greet you on behalf of St.Timothy Community Church. And those that do not know me, I'm Reverend Dr. Ramin Jackson, the senior pastor here. We also have a youth pastor, Pastor William Curran, and then we have our president of our board of trustees, Brother Gregory Jones, and we have several trustees that are part of the leadership of the church. And we just want to welcome you, all the citizens of not only Gary but Lake County. We want to welcome the NAACP as we are the host church, but we are glad that we are here so that we can collaborate together and be able to hear the candidates that are running for office, and we can make a wise decision based on the information that we receive today. And I think it's important for the faith-based community to be involved in the process of this political race because we have members who belong to the church or to the faith-based community who also are citizens and have to vote as well. And so I think that this is an important aspect of the process. So let us bow as we pray together. Almighty God, we thank you for this opportunity in which we have to come into this sanctuary, but most of all, God, to acknowledge that you are the God of all. And God, we ask that you would bless this time in which we share together, bless every candidate, oh Lord, and as they are running for a particular race, God, we ask that you would just give them the strength to endure. We ask, oh Lord, that you would just bless this time in which we, as the residents, begin to listen and hear from each candidate and what they have to offer and what they will offer in the position in which they're running for. And as we embrace and as we obtain the information, we, as the voters, will then make a wise decision on our own. We thank you for the leadership of the NAACP as they have sponsored this event, and we ask, oh Lord, that you would continue to bless and keep. And we pray this in the name of your Son. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. At this time, I want to bring greetings to everyone here today, especially the members of Kappa Alpha Psi, the members of Delta Sigma Theta, and then all the members of the NAACP. At this time, I do want to acknowledge those presidents. Ms. Shana Carruthers, can you please stand? Thanks, Shana. And then Mr. Derek Taylor, Kappa Alpha Psi. It's always great to get partners when we try to put on community events. We've had several people that have worked hard on this, and so obviously we want to have a community-based event. And I'm very proud of our committee that put this together, and I'm just up here facilitating. But I want to just recognize them real quickly, and that is Ms. Darian Collins. Stand, Ms. Collins. Ms. Mary Cossey, and Mr. Willie Miller. They worked tirelessly to put this together. I do want to apologize up front to a lot of the candidates that wanted to be on this, but we tried to figure out what was the most critical races, and that was based on the survey that we took from the community. So we couldn't get everybody in, but we got the major races in, and so all of the candidates out here tonight, welcome, and then just feel free to mingle and talk to folks as we start this. Now, we're very blessed to have great moderators and MCs for tonight that will moderate and give the rules of engagement for this meeting. This is a political forum, not a political debate. Our sole goal at NAACP is to educate the public and make them aware of voters' education so you can make an informed decisions. It's your right, it's your decision to vote. So Michael and Shalice Tobert are our moderators. That's that dynamic duo, that Tobert and Tobert. They're here today. So just to be transparent, they're both life members of NAACP. If you're not a member, we would welcome you to join. And obviously, we'll have people at the back ready to sign you up. So at this time, I'm going to let them give the rules of engagement, and we can get this started. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Good evening. Okay, so we're going to get this party started. This feels like a funeral in here. Come on, guys, get lively. You're about to hear civic engagement. You're about to hear from some of these candidates about some of the issues that impact your community, and you should be excited. So I want to thank the NAACP for hosting us and allowing us to be moderators. And our goal here is to really make sure that you get the information that you need and that we establish some ground rules. So, my wife is a lot tougher than I am in terms of imposing rules. So I'm going to let her go through the rules because she's used to imposing the rules on me, so I'll let you do the rules. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So for our candidate ground rules, we have about 6 or 7 of them. The first is each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide an introduction of themselves. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes to answer each question posed. If you exceed the 2 minutes, you will be asked to complete your statement. This is not a debate. This is not an opportunity for negative political conversation about a candidate. If a candidate does this, they will be asked to cease this behavior. If a candidate engages in this behavior twice, they will not be given an opportunity to continue to participate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to give closing remarks, and audience members will be given an opportunity to submit questions that will be posed to the candidates.
All right, so if you hear that Academy Award music, that means that you've gone too far, okay? All right, okay, so the first section that we're going to do is the Lake County Sheriff's race, and we have candidates, and what we've done in the interest of transparency and balance, all the candidates, if there are more than if there are 2 on the ballot or 2 that show up, we're going to flip a coin to decide who goes first. In this instance, we had 3, so we had them pick randomly from a hat to make sure everything is fair, okay? So from that hat selection process, the person in the first post position is Richard Ligon. Give him a hand. And the second person lined up is Maria Trichovich. Give her a hand. And the person that's sitting in the third slot is Sheriff Oscar Martinez Jr. Give him a hand. So that was randomly selected, so we're going to go ahead and get started with some of our questions. All right?
Allow the introduction.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we got 2 minutes for introductions. So, Mr. Ligon.
Okay, my name is Richard Ligon. I was born and raised in Gary, Indiana. I left Gary and went to Kentucky State University, earned a bachelor's degree. Then I came home and became a probation officer for juveniles for 9 years, then a parole officer. Also worked on a master's degree, graduated from Valparaiso University with a master's degree. Before coming back, I joined the military. I spent 36 years in the Army and the Army National Guard. I attended the Army Command and General Staff College, the Army War College, commanded my last assignment as a 06 Colonel. I commanded 1,750 soldiers, which 1,000 were deployed at the same time. One of them just happened to be my son. Also, I worked federal law enforcement for a total of 22 plus years. At that time, I worked violent crimes in Chicago, Detroit. I came back and became a supervisor in the Northern District of Indiana. Also, my passion is young people. I started Pop Warner football in Gary. It started off as Gary Greens and Gary Steelers. I think a lot of our issues are with the younger people. We must get back to mentoring. I have close relationships with the Department of Defense, therefore bringing numerous Department of Defense programs here, the counter-drug program, the drug demand reduction program, Operation Crackdown, as well as a new program called Starbase Indiana, which we deal with STEMS programs. My emphasis will stay on prevention. In law enforcement, you can arrest and keep arresting, but if you don't prevent it, you're going to have a lot of family with problems as a result of the violence. So my main focus is on prevention and enforcement when you have to enforce the law. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Trichovich. I currently am an officer at the Lake County Sheriff's Department. I am seeking the office of the sheriff. I've worked in many different areas in the department. I was a mom, single mom for 20 years. I've raised 4 children by myself. I began at the department as a secretary. God bless you. I began as a secretary for the jail warden. An opportunity presented itself, and I grabbed it and made it my career. I started in patrol, where we wrote citations and we patrolled the areas and took reports and basically the patrol officer duties. I then went into Special Victims Unit, where I worked as a detective, and I dealt with SIDS and domestic battery and victims of battery and protective orders, and I filed charges there and received and also had charges and convictions. After the Special Victims Unit, I worked at the Drug Task Force, where I did undercover work, and I worked in the streets of Gary, I worked in Hammond and the different areas of Lake County. I also worked in the Civil Division, where it's civil process, where we serve summons and we execute evictions and serve protective orders and replevins and things of that nature. I've also worked in radio dispatch, where we receive the calls first and then forward them to our patrol officers to answer those calls. I've also worked in property management, where I dealt with the fuel, and I know who uses the gas and how much gas they use, and the bids for gas and how much we pay for gas, and with the fleet and with the equipment and with the officers. I also worked with the budget. I worked very close with the sheriff. 2 areas I did not work was the Marine unit and the helicopter unit. Working close to the administration, I've never worked in the administration. That's the office in which I'm seeking now.
Time. Thank you.
Hello. First, I want to thank the NAACP for having this forum and the Trinity Church. My name is Oscar Martinez. I was born here in Gary, then moved to East Chicago, where I was raised. After college, I graduated from the University of Robert Morris, and at 23 years old, I joined the police force, the Lake County Sheriff's Department. I've been there for 29 years as a Lake County police officer, and throughout those years, I moved up the rank from merit rank from sergeant, lieutenant, and deputy commander of the Drug Task Force. I worked in different parts of the Sheriff's Department, but my expertise was narcotics. Started a highway interdiction program where we intercepted narcotics coming in and out of Lake County, and that was very successful. For the past 4.5 years, I was blessed to be elected Lake County Sheriff, and very proud of our accomplishments and programs that we achieved. Some of the things I'd like to talk about, hopefully we can later on in this forum, is the addiction and mental illness that we started at the Lake County Sheriff's Department, addressing those with mental illness and addiction, the technology that we implemented in the Sheriff's Department, the aggressive street patrols with our high crime unit, and also the training, the equipment, and the resources provided for our officers to do their job.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to get into our random questioning of the panel. And this first question goes to Mr. Ligon. The question is, what would you do in the first 60 days if you're elected?
The first challenge would be to have a real strong command team and making sure that we know what's going on from the bottom to the top and top bottom. We want to make sure that we solve or at least start working on morale. If it's high, we're not going to bother. If it's any low morale, we want to deal with that. I want to certify at least 50% of the officers on this program called the Law in Your Community. It deals with building relationships with the churches, schools, and other community entities. This program is a nationwide program. In order to do it, you have to be certified or with someone. The big thing I see right now is the lack of trust with police officers. The community doesn't trust them, and the police don't trust the community. So building that relationship will be a priority for me, and then making sure that the correctional officers' morale is boosted as well as the officers. I feel like prevention is going to be the most important thing. We don't want any family to become a victim of any type of abuse. So what we're going to look at is how we can build that relationship where the community will communicate with the police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question.
In my first 60 days, I would meet with all of the officers on the department and find out what their skills are, what their aspirations are, and where their skills apply to the needs to the department. At this time, we don't have that. Along with that, opportunities, to let them know the opportunities are there for them, to be fair for them and let them apply and honestly consider them for the job to make sure that they are that right person for the job, they're suited and needed for it. Along with that, we'd have to go through the different areas. We've not brought up animal control. Animal control at this time is in peril. We need to address the animal control to make sure those are living and breathing creatures also that need attention. So we need to make sure that the animal control is also where it should be at, that we're not overcrowded there. Also with the jail, walk through the jail, talk to the correctional officers who are also police officers, but within the jail. Find out what their aspirations are also. Speak to them and interview them and find out where we can place them in the better places instead of politically putting them there because they supported me, but because they belong there. I'd also like to go through the department and find out through the different areas of the B of I, of our 911 unit, of the different areas of the department to find out if the people that are in place there now, what are they doing for the department and how are they serving to better serve the community? I'd also like to return phone calls, which is just speaking to the people who help support me and get me into office and let them know that I'm there for them, to communicate with the community and let them know, hey, thank you for supporting me, and it didn't end there. I'm going to be here for you because my first 4 years in office will not be paying back favors. It'll be working for the community to protect, to serve, and to defend. And that's what I put my hand up for when I took that oath 24 years ago, and I intend to do that again.
Time. Thank you. Okay, sure.
In the first 60 days, well, that'll be about the time we get 18 officers out from their probationary status and on the road by themselves, is to increase our high crime unit. They've done a tremendous job here in Gary, our Metro Homicide, our Drug Task Force. Because of COVID, the academy was canceled, so we weren't able to have officers inside the academy. So it was nationwide, not just here locally. So many departments short in manpower. But right now, with things returning back to normal, we're looking to increase our technology with our license plate reader. It has played a crucial part as a resource for our officers and investigators in going after those that are carjacking here in the city, in the county, especially addressing the problem coming from Illinois. We'll increase our patrols there along the border in central Lake County. We've been very successful. You've read in the news and just how many apprehensions we've gotten in reference to the carjackings. We take our law enforcement here seriously. They know, they got the message that they come into Lake County, we're not going to play. We're going to go after them. We will chase them across the state line. We will catch them, and we will extradite them back into Lake County, holding them accountable and and reducing the gun violence by continuing the investigations there in the gun shows that we've done, and that's also been very successful. So increasing the patrols, the Special Operations Unit, and more importantly, addressing the issues of mental illness and addiction, which plays a huge role here in Lake County.
Thank you. The next question is, what has your participation or role been with the NAACP or other community-based organizations such as the Urban League, Gary Chamber of Commerce, et cetera? Mr. Liggett.
My participation with the NAACP, I'm a member of the NAACP, and just so happened today I became a life member. So that means I'm gonna really get down to business. There's a lot of issues. I work a little bit with Urban League on certain problems, but NAACP, I know there's a lot of issues with police action shootings. I definitely want to meet with the NAACP and make sure that they're on top of things that need to be recognized by the public. Also, I want to make sure that the first thing I want to do now, since I'm a life member, is to provide training on the law in your community to the NAACP to make sure they know and understand what will be transpiring in the community.
Thank you.
I'm not a member of either organization, nor have I been involved in either one. But I am involved with the community, which would involve that organization and all other organizations. I communicate with the community. I am currently on the road, and I work in Gary, in East Gary, Miller, Hobart, New Chicago, and Lake Station. So to be engaged with an organization, I'm engaged with the community. And if you're part of that organization, then I'm going to say that I've engaged with that organization. I'm open to be a member of the organization. I am open to speak to the community or to different organizations. I'd like to find out more about the organizations. So please, if you can educate me and let me know, and I can share that, and then I can be a part of it, because there's nothing more than I want to be is part of the community. And that's the biggest organization that we have at this time.
Thank you very much. Sheriff.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. I am a member. I have to see if I'm expired, though, so I might have to renew my membership today. We're heavily involved a lot with sponsorship with the NAACP, the Urban League. We're involved a lot with the churches here in Gary, with pastors and bishops, and we work along with programs like cookouts, or we do events of block parties. But more importantly than just being involved in a sponsor, I have always donated to the scholarships, because I think providing those resources and those funds for people of color, brown or black, to give them that opportunity to go to college. Some don't have the funding, so we sponsor scholarships for people of color, and I think that's important, giving them an opportunity to advance in their life and education.
Thank you. Okay, next question is, what are the top 3 steps that you would take to reduce the crime in local communities like Gary, Indiana? What would be the top 3 things you would do?
First thing, I would make sure that I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. First thing I would do is make sure that I'm definitely communicating with the schools. When you're dealing with the students in the schools, you're also dealing with the parents. Next thing I would make sure is there is a strong relationship with each community. Each community in certain areas, such as Gary, they're different. Brunswick may be different from Glen Park, so you want to make sure that you understand the difference between each one of these communities. You make sure that you're communicating with the pastors. You definitely going to have to get the churches involved in probably solving some of these problems. So I would make sure that I'm looking at the different sections of Gary. I would make sure that the pastors are engaged and that I'm constantly in contact with them to make sure that they're able to get information from their membership and from their area, and then make sure that I'm a part of their monthly meetings or quarterly meetings to make sure that we at least know what's going on.
Thank you very much for that answer. Ms. Trichovich?
It's important that we meet with the mayors and the chiefs and along with the community watch programs and educate so they know where the gang signs are. That's how we know where the troubled areas are, where the abandoned cars are. Once we start seeing signs, there's a lot of signs that can show trouble areas and actually prevent an area from becoming troubled if we educate and let them know what the signs are. And speaking to the community, it's communication along with the schools and our juveniles and mentoring programs and letting them know who we are, and having an internship where the high school students can earn high school credit by coming to the department if they're interested in criminal justice, and working hand in hand with the officers with discretion because of confidentiality, where they can see what we do and they can learn who we are and we can learn who they are. But letting them also identify the problem areas where they know and they're not, if they're troubled teens, where we can speak to them and hopefully help them and mentor them. But educating the community and letting them know where the troubled areas are and help prevent trouble from becoming worse problems or our juveniles from becoming incorrigible to criminal activity. So it's important that we engage with the chiefs, with the mayors, with the schools, and with the community.
Thank you for that response. Sheriff Martinez.
Yes, thank you. We're heavily involved with the churches and other organizations. The very first thing is making sure we have an impact in our youth and gaining that trust with the youth. And we do a lot of those programs, outreach, and you'll be surprised when we get our equipment out there, our officers, our K-9, our helicopter, they're just amazed. They're at awe when they see the equipment and what they can aspire to be. Maybe not a first responder, but something like giving back to your community, being a nurse, being an activist in your community. So getting to the youth is very important. Number two is addressing the addiction, the drug addiction. That's the demand right there. And so many people and family are suffering we all know somebody that suffers from addiction. And what do? Because they're suffering from addiction? They shoplift, they rob and steal from their own family, and they end up in our jail. So we started a Perry program, and that deals with mental illness and addiction. It's free. Come to the Lake County Sheriff's Department if you know somebody. I don't care if you have drugs on you or not. We will confiscate it and get you the help that you need. Secondly is the violence, the gun violence, the gang violence, the drug violence that we have throughout Lake County. It's not just Gary. It's not just East Chicago. It's not Hammond. We have operations going on with meth that we just busted somebody in St. John, Indiana. It's everywhere. So addressing those issues, our high crime unit, aggressive patrol, our drug task force, undercover narcotics, and enhancing our metro homicide. By investigating those homicides, it brings closure to the family, and it holds people accountable and responsible, and we're getting those dangerous people off the streets and behind bars, and that's what we should be doing. So those three things: our youth, dealing with addiction and the mental illness, and the violence throughout the county.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, what we're going to do is to take 2 questions from the audience. Does anybody want to have a question to ask of the panel? Going once, going twice. Why don't you stand up and state your name and where you're from? And now I got to warn you, ask a question. This is not your time to berate any of the candidates. This is the time to ask a question. So ask a question and please be respectful. We'll get Okay, no statements. A question. You got to ask a question. Of the candidates. Okay.
Suggestion. It's okay.
Anybody else have a, please state your name and where you're from.
My name is Jordan Wilson. I'm from Gary, Indiana. And the question that I had for our candidates was basically, you all kind of alluded to an issue with policing and black people. And so how will you reconcile the need to, of course, ensure that our communities, and particularly our city, is in need of public safety help, but, you know, black men in particular are enemy number one for our police. And so what are you all going to do? I mean, you're the chief law enforcement officer in this county about that issue.
We'll start in the order of the random draw. So, Mr. Liggett.
Well, repeat the question, please. Just kind of.
If I can paraphrase for the questioner, it seems that people of color, black people, particularly black men, seem to be targeted by law enforcement. What do you intend to do to foster a better relationship between that demographic and police?
Okay.
Did I paraphrase that correctly?
Okay. What happens is I've been doing after-action reviews on just about every shooting where a black person was shot, a basically young man or the young ladies in some instances. And you have to have that relationship. The police don't trust the community, and the community doesn't trust the police in a lot of cases. You have to build that relationship. And that's why, as a member of Noble, they've been on the front line of every single shooting. And that's why they just redeveloped this program called the Law in Your Community. And I just did it last week. And when you're communicating with the parents and the young people, you really get to know what they feel. And a lot of times, and just recently in Grand Rapids where the young man was shot, it was a registration violation. Why would he run? That's the first thing. Did he think he would get shot? So if sometimes the police have to win, supposedly. So why would you run? So the communication between the police and the young person is what has to happen. They're going to have to go to these programs. They're going to have to do it. We have the counter-drug program with the Department of Defense. That's what they do. They try to bring the young people together with the police. They try to bring the young people together with the military. So unless they're together talking and communicating, you're going to continue to have these problems. And prevention, especially if you have a son, a young son or a young daughter, you're concerned. So I don't think it's necessarily a black-white issue, although when I get stopped, I'm going to put my hand on the steering wheel. You got to teach young people how to do that. So it's a matter of just really getting the communication. The Law in Your Community is a program that's very effective if you have the good, and you should have 2 or 3 police officers with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Trichovich.
I'm a person of color, and I've been stopped before, and I've been harassed. So it's nothing new. It's developing the respect again and communicating with the community. Cultural diversity. We have officers that are on the department that need cultural diversity. Maybe we should have that when they're hired and make sure that they have it with sensitivity for the community. Not every person of color is bad. So, and I agree with that. But open communication, we need to gain the trust again of the community. We need to engage with the community. We need to let them know. I am walking up and down the streets by myself. It doesn't take much to say, hey, hi, how are you? Most people want you to say hi to them. People want you to listen to them. That's all they want, and speak to them. Someone might have a mental illness, and you don't know that, and they're acting kind of funky. Well, find out before you judge somebody. Because that is the problem. Don't we do that? Don't we look at somebody and judge them? Can't we give somebody the benefit of the doubt? And being a woman and being a minority, I've had it twice. So I'm here to tell you, cultural diversity, speaking to people, giving them that opportunity. But if you want their trust, you better give them some trust back.
Thank you very much.
Who was the young lady that asked that question? How you doing? That's a great question, and I just wanted to look at you because so many heads here when we sit down. It's getting involved with the community, getting involved with the youth here in Gary, East Chicago, Hammond. As a Latin person, I have a son. I worry about him driving, and when he gets pulled over, and I tell him what to do, what to expect. But more importantly, we have to bear that responsibility ourselves as police officer. And what is it called? That we all hear throughout the country and how everything gets bad and shootings happen. De-escalation. We have to train our officers with de-escalation, and that's very important. And I purchased a virtual system. It has about 1,000 scenarios of different type of situations. Deals with mental illness, but also officers have to learn to start right here, not right here, because there's nowhere else to go. And they have to learn to start to de-escalate the situation before it gets worse. It's our responsibility. So that was a great question, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, we have one more question, and then we're going to go on to the next panel. This young lady had her hand up first. Sir.
My name is Carrie Castro. I'm an attorney.
I'm sorry.
This question impacts all of us.
It was just, okay, all right.
Do you want me to ask it or not?
No, go ahead.
Okay, this question impacts all of us. It's regarding the license plate readers. And in other jurisdictions, the constitutionality of those license plate readers has been challenged. So my question is, how long is that information maintained by the Lake County Sheriff? And would you come up with some sort of a policy that would protect, that would meet the requirements that you have for those license plate readers, as well as protect the privacy of individuals in Lake County, Indiana?
I did some research on it because I was trying hard to get more license plate readers for the Gary Police Department. However, we finally got some. I think it's a good investigative tool, but I really can't comment on how long you can keep the information or anything. I just know it's a part of an investigative tool that's needed. A lot of times you think you're being profiled, but that license plate reader has picked up some information about your vehicle or a license, and that's the reason. So I can't say how long it's been kept or what we need to do. I would definitely take a look at it with a team of people that are experts with it and see what we need to do legally.
The license plate readers, our officers didn't even want to use them. We had to put a general order out for them to use them because they're not that accurate. They don't work that well. There's glitches and there's problems with the license plate readers. Also, from what I understand, because Gary purchased license plate readers from another company, we aren't assisting Gary with that because we purchased our license plate readers from another company. So therefore, we're not sharing information. And that's a big deal when we communicate with these chiefs, and we have that. In reference to the answer, when we have something like this, a policy does go into place. So we're not invading anybody's privacy with that. I'm sure that was taken care of. But in reference to the license plate readers, I know there's problems with them, and the officers aren't quite comfortable using them from what the officers on the department have shared with me. That's why I'm sharing this with you.
Thank you very much.
That's a great question. So we purchased about 60 license plate readers, and throughout all of Lake County, and it's a vigilant. That's the type of license plate readers we have. And every department that has that same program, we allow them to tap into those license plate readers. So unlike running a license plate, if you're in a police car and you're running a license plate through NCIC or IDEX, and you're getting that information back, that doesn't do that. That's information that is retrieved from a license plate reader is data that's inputted. Let's just say there's a stolen vehicle. We input that data into the license plate reader. Let's say there's somebody wanted on a warrant, or that there's somebody that just committed a crime, or let's just say an officer is responding to a domestic, and the significant other is battered and he fled in a vehicle. We input that information into the license plate reader. It's called a hot list. And once you input that, every officer in the county that has access to that data, it'll give them a real-time alert where that vehicle is at. So it's a great tool and resource for officers to stop crime and apprehend dangerous people. As soon as that person is apprehended or as soon as that vehicle is recovered, that information data is removed from there because it's no longer needed. You don't want somebody driving around once your vehicle has been recovered and it's still in there as stolen. You don't want that. So all that information is removed once it served its purpose. And there's an audit. So there's a complete audit of the license plate reader, meaning I can't put my wife's license plate in there and see where she's going. You can't do that because, you know, that's abusing the license plate reader. So there's a complete audit of the LPRs that we have. So there's accountability. And for the most part, they are working great. There will be some because of license plates that are similar to another state.
Time.
But that takes the officer to look at the screen and determine if it's the vehicle or not.
All right, thank you. All right. I want to thank all the candidates, and at this time, we're going to have 1 minute closing remarks. We'll start with Mr. Ligon.
My name is Richard Ligon. I'm running for Lake County Sheriff. I need your support. I've been a leader, a true leader that believes in mentoring young people. I think that's the root cause of a lot of the problems, the young children and the parents. I need your support. I have integrity, honor, and I will continue to have that. I love the people in this community throughout Lake County, and I'm asking for your support. Thank you very much.
As a female, most people think that females cannot be a leader, but females are leader and females are strong. And therefore I tell you, being a woman, the only woman at this time, has been difficult, but it's been a great journey. And I promise to you that I will serve with integrity, stop the corruption and the injustice, because that's how I am going to serve the community. Because when I raised my hand 24 years ago, I promised to serve, protect, and defend. And folks, I intend to do that and not have you serve, protect, and defend me.
Again, thank you for having us here. When you elect the sheriff, you want to know that he has the training, the experience, and more importantly, the passion. I love this job. This is more than a job. This is my life. I've been doing it for 29 years and had a lot of accomplishments. I've been blessed to serve as the Lake County Sheriff the past 4.5 years. And we've done a lot of things. We dealt with mental illness. We're dealing with addiction. We're dealing with technology and training and equipment for the officers, which is important. But more importantly is the aggressive patrols that we've been doing is keeping our community safe. That's what's important. That's what I've been doing. And I dealt with a $55 million budget. We've been fiscally responsible, never had to ask for additional appropriation. So when you look at the candidates, I think it's clear that Oscar Martinez should continue to serve as your Lake County Sheriff. I ask you for your support, and I ask you that you allow me to continue to serve as your Lake County Sheriff. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
It's time. Well, I want to give a round of applause to all of our candidates. They did a fine job. And that is the end of the panel for Lake County Sheriff. So we're going to go on to the next panel. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. All right, the next drawing and candidate panel will be the Lake County Clerk. So come up here and get your random ticket. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to let everybody get seated and set. We ready? Okay, the next panel candidates discussion that we're going to have is for the Lake County Circuit Court Clerk race. And the drawing, we're going to go with 3 candidates, and the drawing is 1 through 3. The first pole position, we're going to have Andrew Sylvesterwich. And number 2 is Jesse Gomez. And number 3 is Mike Brown. All right, so we're going to give these candidates each 2 minutes opportunity to introduce themselves to the audience. You have 2 minutes to do that. And you heard, did everybody hear the ground rules? All right, I don't have to put anybody in a headlock? Okay, all right, so there we go.
How do you do? My name is Andrew Sylvesterwitz. I'd like to start off my tenure here for a few minutes that I have with a psalm, and Psalm 37. It has to do with, be delightful with the Lord, and he shall give your heart's desire. Your heart's desire. Very important to me. Religion is very important to me, and I am happy to be inside your church for one thing, and I'm happy to be inside Lake County for another. Born and raised in Lake County. I lived here all my life. I started off my days after high school in the United States Marine Corps. I enlisted for 6 years. I completed my enlistment with an honorable discharge. I went on a Hammond Fire Department. I stayed there for 38 years. Had a lot of study, over 5,000 certified hours of study in the state of Indiana. Then I had 12 years on the Maryville Town Council. In those 12 years, I have learned a lot, and I have learned a lot about personnel. I have learned a lot about troubleshooting, problem solving, and I want to utilize that to do something with the clerk's office. I feel that it's an opportunity. It's something I have a calling for. I know I have a lot to learn. I have never been a clerk before, but that doesn't mean I can't learn. I was in charge of a lot of money when I was in Maryville. So being in charge and getting money and in charge of money and distributing, I'm well familiar with that aspect of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Gomez. I'm from East Chicago. I want to start by telling you that my family has been in public service for a number of years. My father was the first Latino elected official in the state of Indiana back in the 60s. So as a little kid, I grew up somewhat entwined in politics. After his passing in office, my mom succeeded him. So both my parents were on the Chicago City Council. I've been a precinct committeeman for over 36 years, and I've also been elected twice to the Chicago City Council. So I've been very fortunate to step in my parents' footsteps. They've had a long service, a long time serving the public, and I learned a lot from them. Subsequent to that, though, I want to say a real important comment that all the years that I've served as an elected official, one of the biggest challenges in East Chicago, and I think you've experienced that here and you're currently experiencing here in Gary, is an elected school board. I fought with Lonnie Randolph and the Ministerial Alliance to bring an elected school board to East Chicago. After many, many years of hard struggles and many, many fights with the administration, we finally made it happen, and there became the elected school board in East Chicago. I was fortunate to be elected to that same school board after it was implemented. I was the board president for the first 2 years of that school board, and we made a number of positive changes in East Chicago from that. My degrees in management from Cal College. I have the great fortune of being a classmate to Carlotta King, who's in the audience tonight, Terry Hill, who is a city councilman in East Chicago, and Africa Tarver, who works in the Department of Development over in Hammond. So I think the management role that I learned in college and that I've
That's
had
your time, sir.
Thank you, as a private citizen will make me a good candidate for this office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Good evening, everyone. First, let me thank the pastor of this church as well as the NAACP for allowing us to be here. And thank you for coming. My name is Mike Brown, and I'm a product of the city of Gary, and I'm proud to say that. One of the reasons why I'm here is because I love public service. I love serving the people, because the bottom line is I'm here to serve the masses, not the few. The city of Gary is the village that raised me and saved me. My career, whether it be political or anything else, is because of the foundation I've had here from the city that I love and grew up in. I currently serve as your councilman at large on the city council, and I thank the city's voters and citizens for giving me that opportunity to serve. I generally like to finish a term once I started, but due to special circumstances, the current clerk, who has been my boss, the Honorable Judge Arredondo, has had an unfortunate incident, and because of that, I sit before you. And I ask you to pray for him and his family. But more importantly, I sit before you because I feel like I'm the most qualified person to maintain the status of that office. I have been employed at the Lake County Clerk's office since 2010 in the capacity as your county clerk from 2010 to 2018, and from 2019 to currently the Odyssey Transition Coordinator, where I work side by side with the current clerk, the Honorable Judge Arredondo. Previous to that, I served as your I served as your recorder of deeds. It was an honor to serve in that capacity, and in that capacity, we found situations where people were taking deeds and forcing deeds, should I put it like that, and we brought the attention to the public so people would stop doing that, and the laws have changed now. I know for some people it's an inconvenience, but that's the reason why the attorneys have to be involved in the quitclaim deeds and any deed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to open the questions up, and the first question that's randomly selected is, what have any of you done to prepare yourself to be the Lake County Circuit Court Clerk?
Well, as first speaker, what I have done is worked continuously for 12 years with the Maryville Council, and my last 3 years I was the chairman of the Redevelopment Commission, and redevelopment is bringing business into the town. The assessed value of your properties and all the properties of one city or town determines what kind of taxes you're going to pay and what kind of taxes the business is going to pay. And at the time I took over for Redevelopment Commission Chairman, we were at, Maryville had an assessed value of $550 million, sorry. And when I left after 3 years of service, we had $1.2 billion. Now that meant that our taxes were lower for not only the homeowner, but the business. And we had a lot of work to do, and that was continuous work because you had to deal with a lot of people. You dealt with abatements, and you dealt with dealing with hiring people that came from your town for these businesses that want to operate in your town. So I think that prepared me in a big way for actually getting involved in the clerk's position, and I won't be a stranger to large amounts of money to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you. To prepare myself for this, it's not been easy. Lorenzo Arredondo's family and my family go back from childhood. So our families are extremely, extremely close, and this was a difficult decision. When I was thinking about doing this, I remember talking to my mom, who's now 96 years old, and she told me that don't think about it, don't think twice about it, do it. So after that conversation, I started looking more and more at what we were doing in the clerk's office currently and over the past 10 plus years. If you go online and you look at the State Board of Account records, they will indicate to you, these are not my words, these are words that are coming from the State Board of Accounts about the performance of the current and former clerk's office. The records are really pretty abysmal. Training lacks. there in the office, and it's been lacking for a long time. The State Board of Accounts goes over records, and they are very meticulous in it, and I know many of you may not know it, but after they go ahead and evaluate your office, they then give you recommendations for how to improve services. Those are the same issues we find year after year after year. No action was taken in the clerk's office, and subsequent to that, we continue to pile up all these violations or indiscretions from the State Board of Accounts. As far as my personal work with the clerk's office, I worked with Bob Antich, a former Gary school teacher, who was our county clerk. I was actually the campaign manager for him. And so I've worked very closely with Bob Antich, our former clerk. And I've also worked in private industry, as I said earlier, for the last 20 years. I can only tell you this: the standards in private industry are here. The standards in government are here. I'd like to raise our standards in government to where they should be and professionalize this office. Thank you.
It's time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I don't like to have to respond, but I will. The State Board of Accounts comes on a regular basis to the county, and it's the system. We have some of the best employees you could ever ask for. They work in our Gary, Hammond, East Chicago, juvenile office, and our Crown Point office, which has small claims, traffic, probate, criminal. And we have an Odyssey system in which we have put in place through the state. But you must understand that from our standpoint, we're doing the best job we can, and I'm very proud of them as well as the work they've done. Now, the question was, what would I do? Well, I've already been there, so I would do what I did when I first came in 2010. I asked the employees to work with me. I wanted to find out who was good at what, because it was rather new to me. At this point, since I've been there for the time that I have, and obviously the staff could have been too bad, because when Judge Arredondo came in 2018, no one was dismissed, no one was fired, because the staff was doing their job. We can't do anything about the State Board of Accounts and its finding except respond it and do the best we can as an office. I'm extremely proud of what we're doing, the direction we're going in. We meet with the judges on a regular basis, whether it's a criminal judge or circuit court judge, any concerns that they have. As a staff, we're there to handle that. We normally have monthly meetings, and also one other job for the clerk of the court is to sit on the election board. You oversee the elections. I will continue to come to the meetings on a regular basis like I always did. I will continue to participate in everything and make sure that fair elections continue to support early voting and continue to support all the things that the clerk of the circuit court must do. Keep in mind, Lake County is the second largest court clerk's office in the state of Indiana. Marion County is the only one that's larger, so we do volume. And I am extremely proud of our staff, and I'm extremely proud of the service that we provide, and I'm looking forward to continuing in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this next question is, I have to say, is from the bar, quasi-bar, because this is something I want to know. So I'm just made this up. It's from the legal community. Yeah, that's right, it's from the legal community. All right, what steps would you take to work with each respective bar association, particularly the Lake County Bar Association?
I don't know. I've never worked with the Lake County Bar Association before, but if I have to, that's what the duty calls for, I will work with them diligently and find out exactly what their aspirations are, what they intend for me to do, and I'd like to at least educate myself prior to meeting with these people, so I know what to ask, what to ask for, and I get some idea of what they want. And I would like to work together. I've always been a cooperative type of person. That's just my nature. So I think I can get along very well with most every entity that I will deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez?
Thank you. I'm friends with a number of attorneys throughout Lake County, and many of them are supporting me in this election because I think they want to see something better in the clerk's office as well. So I would tell you that I know that there's minority groups that have chapters of the Bar Association. I'd work with each one of those groups. More importantly, there was a question raised at yesterday's forum, which Mr. Silvestrovitz and I attended. That question was, what would you do to select chief deputies in your office and to maintain a sense of diversity for this county? I will tell you this, that if I'm elected clerk, I will tell you, I will work with the bar associations for them to help interview. This should not be a Jesse decision on its own. I'd really like to engage our Lake County prosecutor, our Lake County sheriff, and the bar associations to ensure that I have a good feel for what they know, because they work on a day-to-day basis with them right now, with the clerk's office right now. And I like to know what they think and what they see, how we can make this office better by having a diverse, qualified chief deputy for each one of our offices in Crown Point, Gary, Hammond, and East Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I have already worked with the Bar Association. And when we implemented the Odyssey system, the Bar Association approached us, and we actually put on a training session for all the attorneys throughout the county, and the attorneys receive continuing education credits for that. Therefore, the Bar Association is very aware of our staff, and when we had the training session, every manager, every supervisor that worked for the clerk's office was part of the training. I'm proud of that. I'm also proud to be engaged with the Kimbrough Bar Association and what they do. And as far as chief deputy, when I first became clerk in 2010, my chief deputy was an attorney by the name of Marilyn Herniak, who had served as an attorney for Jack Crawford, and she was an extremely qualified person. And I was glad to have her, and I know if given the opportunity to serve again, I will find an extremely qualified chief deputy. And let me tell you, the managers and the supervisors in the offices that we have, they're extremely trained. And when we put the Odyssey system together in 2018, we worked Sundays, weekends, mornings, nights, and they got tired of me. They called me a tyrant, but I told them, let me tell you, when you finish learning this system, you will stand on your own 2 feet. And to this day, they stand on their own 2 feet, and I'm proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you were talking, I was looking at my phone, and my associate just made a filing on the Odyssey system. So I have a question about Odyssey for the panel, all right? We've heard a lot of discussion about the Odyssey system and how it was implemented. What steps, if any, would you take to make the Odyssey system and e-filing better for Lake County attorneys? Start with you first.
Well, I'm not sure what Odyssey is. I just learned about it a few weeks back. But I understand it's a program of filing system and how they're going to conduct their business in filing and getting the reports out well. They have to do something. They've been in the red for approximately 8 years, maybe more. I checked with the State Board of Accounts and the Audit Department, and they looked to the 2018 and below, 17 and 16 and 15, and they said everything was the same. Nothing has changed. The references that they had recommended to the clerk's office did not change. There was no difference. They even had the Fed audit, and they said there was no change, and they look for change. So I also look for change, and I will change that and have a better outlook on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gomez?
The Odyssey system was, implemented statewide. This is not a local initiative. This was something that came from the state. So each clerk's office has the Odyssey system. Vivian Daniels, who's our chief deputy in East Chicago, and I have had conversations about this. I will tell you this, that for the last 3 years, we've paid about $125,000 for the Odyssey Transition Manager in Lake County, and I just don't know why it takes you 3 years to transition from one system to another when every other clerk's office in Lake County has already been transitioned. So to make improvements to it, excuse me, Those improvements would come generally from the state. I believe that the transition's already been accomplished, and I was asked yesterday what my first action in office be. If I was elected clerk, my first action in office would be to eliminate the position of Odyssey Transition Manager. We no longer need a transition manager there. So I want to be very clear about that. That would be my first action in office. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Thank you for the question. The Odyssey system, as he said, the Indiana State Supreme Court put the system in place, and it's mandatory throughout the entire state. It allows the judges as well as prosecutors and everyone else to see what's going on. One of the things I would like to improve, because as you said, someone had just filed, and our clerk's office is currently closed to the public, I would like for our office in Lake County, to be similar to Marion County. It operates 24 hours a day, because over the weekends we have a crew that works because people have to be bonded. You can't hold people for more than 48 hours in special cases. And also, I must express to you that the Odyssey Transition Manager, or however you want to deal with the title, all the courts have transition managers. All of them have Odyssey employees, because the Odyssey system is constantly being updated, it's constantly being changed, and it's mandatory through the state. The county council approved it, and I would encourage anyone who wants to be clerk to continue to have a transition person in that office through Odyssey, because there will be more changes. As I said, I would like very much for Lake County to operate 24 hours a day. I think that would be very helpful. I'm satisfied with the work our staff is doing now, but it would be a lot easier if we could run 24 hours a day. I've been in Marion County, I've trained down there with them, and they're doing a great job being available 24 hours a day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, this is the last question before we open it up to the audience. This is a two-part question. First part of the question is, are you a member of the NAACP? And the second question is, what role do you believe that the clerk should have in working with groups like the NAACP, the Urban League, the Gary Chamber of Commerce, and other community-based organizations?
Well, I'm going to respond to your second question. I think the role that the clerk's office should have with organizations such as the NAACP is very vital. It's important. You get the feel of the pulse of the public, and you get some idea of what you have to do in your office. I'd like to say that I was a former member of the NAACP in the 1980s when Mr. Bennett was president of the NAACP. What I'd like to do is the first 60 days when I take office is get that office audited and find out exactly where we stand as far as money goes, and where the money is going to, and why we're in the red in certain categories that will be taking place. I want my employees to start making a little more money than people working at the McDonald's making $15 an hour. They're making a lot less now, and so I want to bring that wage up, and the only way to bring it up is to educate your people and for them to do a thorough job. And I want them to have compassion when people come across the counter for business that has to do with anything in Lake County. We'll have people assist whoever it is that needs assistance other than the clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez?
I've been a member of the NAACP for a number of years. Back when I was on the East Chicago City Council, I'm not currently a member. But I'm very good, very good friends with Johnny Florence, who I believe is Mr. NAACP. At least that's what we considered him in East Chicago. Today I just received a text from Emmett Mosley, also former president of NAACP in East Chicago. I have a lot of friends that work closely with NAACP. I work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce for Hammond, East Chicago, so I'm very involved in the chamber over there, but I'm also very good friends with Chuck Hughes, our chamber president over here in Gary, and we worked very closely when we were on the city council together, Chuck and I. So the role that I think clerks should play with groups like the NAACP, Urban League, and so on, is to be an active member, active participant, attend meetings, and get feedback from those organizations. I think sometimes the clerk's office and individuals, when they get in office, they forget about the people that kind of built the structure that we live in now. For people like my dad, who was the first Latino city councilman, and some of the members of the city council that I grew up with knowing, Hattie Leonard, Bob Warner, John Williams, people like that who worked so hard to bring equal rights and voting rights to the public. I think we sometimes overlook that when we get to an office. I want to reestablish those connections because I believe we need to continue building our communities, both black and brown, to make our communities mutually stronger. I'm so happy when I go into Chicago and I see how well connected the communities are there. I think we need to do a better job of connecting communities here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you for the question. First of all, I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP and proud of it. Also, my family, wife, and kids are very supportive of the Urban League on a regular basis. And I have a quick story to tell you about the NAACP and what happened while I was county clerk. We had a situation downtown where we had been using the Genesis Center to vote, and for some unknown reason, someone moved it to the county building, which was next door, which was not handicap accessible and none of the other things. And I went to a couple of the NAACP people, and we had some meetings at a law office, and explained to them, you know, we need to get back there. Could you help us? And in a subtle way, in a subtle, quiet way, they asked us to have some election board members come and meet in the county building. And when all things were finished, the NAACP made it possible for us to move back to the Genesis Center, which was the right and proper place to vote. I know we are voting at the public library now because the Genesis is closed, but when it was open, the NAACP made it possible to make sure people could vote there, and I'm extremely proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to open up for questions from the audience. We're only going to take 2. And remember, ask a question, people. This is not your time to berate the candidates, so if you have a question, please ask it, and we'll see if we can get it answered. And state your name and where you're from.
Yes, my name is Will Miller. I'm from Gary, Indiana here, and I'm a very proud member of the NAACP and AACP. And my question is this: you talked about technology. Technology is pretty important. How will you assure that technology protects our community in a sense of disseminating information about various court environments and backgrounds on people? Because it's near and dear to my heart, because that situation may have saved a family member of mine. I'm curious about how you will approach those situations.
Well, I have I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, but I have a difficult time hearing. I think it's from all those fire engines that I used to have behind me blowing the sirens, deafened my ears a little bit. But I think you're talking about technology in that office, and also the NAACP active role in technology with the clerk's office.
Just a point of clarification, I think
Yes.
one of the question gears towards like cybersecurity and the fact that we're moving online. What steps would the candidates take to ensure that sensitive information that passes through the clerk's office is protected?
Oh, okay. Thank you. First of all, I would get a professional there to check out the internet and the Wi-Fi systems and everything that goes through them, and have that thoroughly checked, and make sure that I have a group of people that understand that type of technology besides me, so I can make a decision as to how to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a member of the Lake County Advancement Council, and about 3 weeks ago, we just had a luncheon, and the topic was that, cybersecurity. You know, a lot of us think that, that we can go ahead and just access records at will. And here's the balance that we have to measure. You know, these are public records, and by the same token, some of them are confidential. So we have to be very careful about how we balance the right of the public to know and the right of those individuals to be secure in knowing that their records are indeed kept confidential. Very difficult balance. So my thought on that is, for example, like when I log into my work computer, I have to log in basically like 3 times, and then I get a little notification on my phone that tells me, "Are you Jesse?" And then I got to say yes. Now I've been connected. So I think we need to do a better job of getting our security systems in place in the county. Again, we're here in the county. In private industry, we're here. I think we need to raise the bar to be a more professional organization, to both allow people to access records publicly and also to maintain the confidentiality of people. So my thought on this right now, I'm not a technology guy, but I am very aware of how it works. And so I would suggest that from this point forward, we would consider where if I want to get into the system, I need to enter my name, some contact information about myself, and then I get approved by the clerk's office so that when Jesse is looking for records on someone, that we can basically public information, we can do this by public information request. You sign a card, you hand over to the clerk, they then give you the records. I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it electronically so that we can trace who it is what files you're looking for, and we lock you out of confidential records. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Thank you for the question. First of all, there's no 100%. As you know, the county had been attacked by cyber criminals. We didn't pay the ransom. We made the repairs that was necessary. We hired, and when I say we, I'm talking about Cinefax, because that's the IT people that provide the information for the entire county, not just the clerk's office. In our Odyssey system, there's a redaction piece that's there, and everything is pretty much done from an electronic standpoint. Also, let me make this clear, that because our employees handle so many records and so many cases, from time to time you have a problem where an employee will do something that's not morally correct, put something out there about someone's case or this, that, and the other. We fire them when they do that because we understand the importance of your cases. We have some very sensitive juvenile cases. We have some very sensitive probate cases. We have some very sensitive divorce cases, criminal cases. We have a variety of cases. Every case is important. I make it clear to the staff, it's not a piece of paper, it's a person's life. And so we are responsible for that. We're just part of the system. We can't fix it. When it happens, we can let them know what's wrong. We can deal with that. So Cinefax does the IT. They have roughly about 6 to 8 people that work throughout the county complex and another 2 to 4 that work in the satellite offices for any and every problem that we have, because we have roughly about 160 employees throughout the county at the clerk's office. And as I said, they do a great job because the clerk's office has a great challenge to make sure that anything that comes into the Lake County system is done right. And I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to serve in the capacities that I've served. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more question, and then we're going to have closing remarks from the candidates.
Okay.
That's it? No questions? All right. All right, going once.
Real quick, the high-performing counties that you've heard of, what are they doing, and how can we implement it here?
Did the panel hear the question? All right, did the panel hear the question?
Yes.
You heard the question? Okay, the question was, what are the high-performing counties doing as it relates to the clerk's office? Best practices.
I'm sorry.
What are the best practices in terms of what other counties are doing with respect to the clerk's office?
I have no idea what other counties are doing and the practices in our county, except I know we're in the red and I want to get us out of the red and put us in the black. And I will do that. I do a good job of tuning up and problem solving. So that's where my forte is.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. And, you know, to that point, Jessica Bailey is the Porter County Clerk. She was a former school board member in Portage, a very good friend of mine. I met her while I was on the school board. They do some very innovative things here. And this is the difference, I believe, in this race between somebody who's going to be business as usual or somebody who's going to be progressive, helping our communities. Best practices in Porter County, for example. Excuse me. They do something in working with the election board that is so cool. If you remember, Rudy Clay took a bunch of kids down to Crown Point and got all kind of heck for it because, you know, he took kids out of school. What they did in Porter County is they have a voting van. And so just think about how that would work for us here. Instead of having to take kids out of school and transport them down to Crown Point, we would actually bring voting to them. You know, we got to get our kids more and more engaged. Our voting rate here is 17 to 21% in Lake County. That's abysmal. I do think we can do better, and so we should do some innovative things. We should do some progressive things, not just sit back and do the day-to-day operations. Think out of the box, talk to other communities and see counties and see what they're doing over there. So that's one of the things that they're doing, which I really think is important, particularly for communities that as we're trying to engage our young people in the black and brown communities to become active participants in our government. And the only way to do that is to introduce some innovate. We need to meet them at their level, I guess is my point. And so I really would like to bring a voting van here into Lake County and spread that amongst every school district here in Lake County. I think we need to do some innovative things. And the other thing that they do over there is they really scrutinize the way that they, sorry, distracted by a ring. But anyway.
I'll give you a couple more seconds because of the cell phone.
Thank you. I just think that the oversight that they do, the monitoring of the school board of State Board of Accounts and the corrections that they make are important. You can say all day long that the office is doing well. The State Board of Accounts has a different opinion than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mr. Brown?
Thank you for the question. When we took over the clerk's office in 2010, one of the first things we did, because the county didn't have funding for part-time workers, we partnered with Terry Hill, I believe at the time he was with Workforce One and others, and we were able to get people employed and have the state pay for their employment for 6 weeks at a time. And through that program, we have roughly about 6 employees now. The reason why I say that is because the majority of them were young, either high school or college students. I have one young man in particular that's a department head, started out with me. He was in college, and now he has his master's degree. And so we're also available to go out and speak if necessary. Now, one of the reasons why I must say that Lake County is not as active is because we have an extremely large caseload. Some of the other counties that do so well don't do nearly as much work. When I go downstate to the clerks' conferences and meet with some of the clerks and they see the caseloads that we have, and some of those offices have 3 people in them for the whole entire county, or 5 people in them for the whole entire county, they don't have the workload we have. St. Joe County, Vanderbilt County, Lake County, Porter County, there's one in Lafayette. What's that county is that? Tippecanoe. We are the counties that do large volumes in the court systems. And I'm not making excuses because there's no excuse to make. But my first priority is to make sure that anything that goes in that court system, that you get a fair share. Because my responsibility as clerk is to get that work from one place to the other, whether it's a police report, whether it's a eviction, whether it is a traffic ticket, or whether it's something regarding a criminal case. We have a responsibility. Because if you're not notified in a proper manner, you know, it could get ugly, like some of the things you see across the country where someone does a no-knock warrant or someone goes to the wrong address. We have a responsibility. And we will continue to work with organizations like this. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. right, those are all the questions. So at this time, we're going to give our panel an opportunity to give closing remarks. You have 1 minute. Here's your parting shots.
Okay. I want to thank you all for coming here, and just want to express myself about the wage difference that we have in Lake County, specifically in the clerk's office. It's a very important office. It's a $3.3 million budget. We need people that know what they're doing in that office. And so the only way to do that is to pay well, to pay the people that do the job, and not to restrict them in any ways. If they have to work a little overtime, pay the overtime. Get the job done, get the filing system done. Don't wait for tomorrow to what you could do today. So my thing is, when I get in that office, I will revamp that situation there with the employees and the staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want to go back to Rudy Clay. I remember one of his speeches, he, I think, put it really well. He said, for those people who don't think that their vote counts, think about this. From the day that you were born to the day you die, politics is in your life. The day you were born, they entered your name in the county system, as the county recorder's job was to enter your name in there. And the day you die is the day that the coroner, another elected official, enters your name into the system. So from the day you were born to the day you die, politics in your life. I won my first election by 1 vote. So when people say their vote doesn't count, I tell them I have a story for you. I think it's important for a clerk to be an activist clerk. That's the difference between me and the other candidates in this election. I will be an activist clerk, just like I was an activist to bring an elected school board into East Chicago. Just like I was an activist in East Chicago to change the way the structure was, the political structure. We have a choice to go move forward or go backwards. I'd like to think that we'd like to move forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. Oh, one more.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
trying to keep the show
Okay,
going.
thank you for the question. When I grew up here in Gary, one of the first things my grandparents taught me growing up in the Towson community was not to mess up our family name. And that's extremely important to me, as well as not to cause any disrespect to the community that I grew up in. I'm proud of that. And, you know, one of the things I learned when I ran for clerk in 2009 against Sandy Bedoya, she wanted to debate me. And I said, you know what's in the clerk's office. I know what's in the recorder's office. So I'm not going to go up here and talk about things that I don't know about. I'm not going to make accusations and assume things that I'm not sure of. You go on the radio, you talk about what you can do, I'll talk about what I can do. That's one of the things about debates that makes me say, because I listened to my opponents and some of the things they said, but then I worked there since 2010. And I have the same concerns everyone else in this office has, in this audience has. You want the best person for the job. I feel like I'm the best person.
All right.
I'm number 2 on the line, but when you vote, I want to be first on your mind. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Now you can give them a round of applause. All right. I think what we're going to do is take a short break before the next, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to have the next panel come up. Thank you for your patience and your engagement. Appreciate you. You got to use the restroom.